Good morning, dear colleagues. Excuse me my technical delay, but you know, problems of using technique always have some troubles. Sure, you can see on this picture the theme of today's lecture. It's written on superior part, os palatinum, palate, palate bone, os palatinum. Please make a photo of this picture, and then I shall clear this picture, and we shall repeat it again from the beginning. I hope you already made a photo, and now let's try to understand what is it. Now you can see a skull from the back. Now, front aspect, and now I turn to the back aspect. And this is very interesting places. They named horns, left horn and, right horn and left horn. Horns are the cavities, foramen, through which nasal cavity connects with nasopharyngeal cavity. So through the breath in, the air passes through horns from nasal to nasopharyngeal cavity. And practically this place is drawn in our picture. So here in the middle of the structure we can see this structure in the middle of picture, and laterally we can see these lateral and inferior structures. So palate bone practically is deeply hidden in the nasal and oral cavity, and our task today is to find all the details of its structure. So now I shall clean the table, and we shall begin together to draw this picture de novo, from the beginning. Okay. So os palatinum, or palate bone, is quite complicated bone which is colorized in this model with light brown color. Here it is. So we can demonstrate it in our picture like letter L. capital L in Latin or in English. This bone is parrot bone. Now we have drawn the left bone, and then we shall draw a right bone. So we can easily see that left bone consists of two laminae, number 1 and number 2. Lamina number 1 is named lamina horizontalis. Lamina horizontalis. Lamina horizontalis. Why this name? Because practically it is placed namely horizontally. Here it is. These structures called palate, hard palate or bone palate, bony palate. So palate is the border between oral cavity, which is here, and nasal cavity, which is here. So the border between nasal and oral cavity is the palate. And we can see here that palate consists of 4 bones. Practically, there are 2 symmetrical pairs of bones. Exactly, palate bone, this light brown color, and the maxillar bone, this red color. I try to demonstrate this principle by the scheme. Do you know how many teeth we have in nerve? Sure, 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I'd like to do it symmetrically, but if I make mistake in the count of teeth, so be more careful. So I'd like to demonstrate that palate consists of these parts. Os palatinum, os palatinum, right and left, and here os maxilla, maxilla. Also, right and left. So, number 1, lamina horizontalis, number 1, lamina horizontalis, is posterior part of bony palate, and sure we can see that it's one of two symmetrically placed bones which are localized here. So let me draw the symmetrical right part. Here it is. Number 1, lamina horizontalis. So again, may I ask you a question? What wall of the oral cavity forms lamina horizontalis ossis palatini? What wall? I hope you shall answer an upper wall, superior wall. So oral cavity will be here, and that's why lamina horizontalis ossis palatini forms superior wall of oral cavity. Sure. And now about this, number 2, what is this? This is lamina perpendicularis. Lamina, the same, perpendicularis. Lamina perpendicularis. So it's clear that lamina horizontalis and lamina perpendicularis connects with each other in right angle. So here it is. May I ask you, what wall of the nasal cavity it forms? I hope you answer that lateral wall. Do you agree? For nasal cavity, which is here, nasal cavity is here. Number 2, perpendicular lamina of os palatinum forms lateral walls, and horizontal lamina forms inferior wall. Do you agree? So, practically, os palatinum is organized quite simple, but nevertheless there are a lot of complicated details. Let's try to find them. First of all, what are the neighbors bones for this lamina perpendicularis? If we shall try to find them posteriorly to lamina perpendicularis, we can find a yellow bone of yellow color. What is it? It's pterygate process of sphenoidal bone. So posteriorly to lamina perpendicularis, we can find lamina medialis ossis sphenoidalis, processus pterygoidus ossis sphenoidalis. So here it is. And anteriorly to it, we can find that inside of nasal cavity there is os maxilla. There is os maxilla. We also have this model of the skull, which could be cutted in sagittal plane. So I opened it. And in the right part, we can find lateral wall of nasal cavity. Here it is, lateral wall of nasal cavity. It's inferior wall of nasal cavity, that means palate, pallatum in Latin, and in lateral wall, especially were drawn two red lines. These red lines confined this perpendicular lamina of palate bone. Here it is. Lamina perpendicularis ossis palatini. And we can see that there are bones before it and after it, anteriorly to it and posteriorly to it. And posteriorly, it's lamina medialis processus pterygoide ossis sphenoidalis. This one, lamina medialis processus pterygoidus ossis sphenoidalis. This is sphenoid bone, and this is lamina medialis processus pterygoidus of this sphenoidal bone. And anteriorly to it, this is os maxilla. Os maxilla. And now details. Except these two lamina, os palatinum also has three processes. I shall draw it. This one I designated with letter P. And this two processes. So, there are three processes. One of them, designated with letter P, is processus pyramidalis. Processus pyramidalis. That means the shape of this process is like pyramids. First of all, where can we find it? It attached to the place of connecting between each other horizontal and perpendicular laminae. Do you agree? Here it is. But for find these processes in the skull, I'd like to use this bone. What is it? It's sphenoidal bone. And I hope you can distinguish this part of sphenoidal bone. What is it? Processus pterygoideus. It consists of lamina medialis, here it is, and lamina lateralis, here it is. And what is between of them? What is this space? What does this space call? It's incisura pterygoida. It's incisura pterygoida. Can you see that it's quite deep? Do you agree? Incisura pterygoida, it's quite deep. Between lamina medialis and lamina lateralis, there is a deep gap. But now, I'd like to demonstrate to you a skull at the same place. Here it is. Lamina medialis, processus pterygoide. And here it is, lamina lateralis, processus pterygoide. And where is the incisura pterygoide? We can't see it. Why? Why there is no here incisura pterygoide like in a distinct bone? I'd like to compare. This is distinct bone, and here it is, and here it is incisura pterygoide, and there is no such incisura in the skull. Why? Because answer is this space, incisura pterygoide, is occupied by the processus pyramidalis. So, processus pyramidalis occupies incisura pterygoide. So we can say that this is processus pyramidalis of palatum bone. We can, for example, write down here in parentheses that inside of incisura pterygoide inside of incisura pterygoida It's abbreviation. Pterig, incisura pterigoida. Abbreviation. So, one of these three processes of palatum bone we have found. Now, the next. Here, we have drawn two processes which attaches in one point. One of these processes is arranged anteriorly. This, named O, designated as O, processus O, orbitalis O, processus orbitalis. Processus orbitalis, orbital processes. Processus orbitalis. Why it has this name? Sure, because it's placed inside of the orbit. And this place is very deep in the orbit. Here. Very deep in the orbit we can find processus orbitalis. Very small, maybe 1/2 or less of square centimeter. Very small structure. For understand how to find it, let's try to understand the principle of organization of the orbit. Orbit has a shape of the pyramis. Quadriangular pyramis. This is the basis of this pyramis. There, inside, quite deeply, is an apex of pyramis. And here we can find 4 walls. Inferior wall, lateral wall, medial wall, and superior wall. So I'd like to designate it schematically. I try to demonstrate the orbit schematically here. Let it be left orbit. This square is an additus ad orbite, the basis of the orbit. And there we can find two fissura orbitalis superior. I shall colorize it with dark color, with black color. Fissure orbitalis superior and inferior. And they separate different walls. And also these dotted lines for distinguish another walls. So you can find here exactly four walls. L, lateral wall, S, superior wall, M, medial wall, and E, inferior wall. And this process, orbital process, is placed here. Very small structure here it is, very small structure in the deep of the orbit and in the apex of orbit. So this is O. I shall designate it as O. What does it mean? O. Processus orbitalis. Again, let's summarize. Processus orbitalis is located inside of the orbit, exactly in inferior wall, letter I, inferior wall of the orbit, and is very small part of inferior wall of the orbit in the deep of the orbit. Here it is. Here it is. Very deep. Oh, wonderful. So, two processes we have find. And now, the last, third processes. Letter S. What does it mean? S. Processus sphenoidalis. Processus sphenoidalis. Processus sphenoidalis. To find these processes, I like especially to demonstrate this space between these two processes. What is it? This space is incisura Sphenopalatine. Incisura Sphenopalatine. Incisura Sphenopalatine. So we can explain that incisura sphenopalatinum is the place between these two processes. But now, if I use the medially cutted skull, we have find here not incisura sphenopalatina, but foramen sphenopalatine. In the skull, it isn't incisura, but it's foramen. Why? Because from above, this incisura is closed by the sphenoidal bone. Sphenoidal bone closes this incisura from above. Let us demonstrate it in our skin. So, and so. That's why from another side here, I shall write down foramen Sphenopalatine. So, in distinct palate bone, we can find incisura sphenopalatine, but in the skull, we can find only foramen sphenopalatine. Why shall we know this? Because if I enter this incisura sphenopalatine, теперь ближе, we can distinguish that before, anteriorly of it, it is formed by processus orbitalis. Here it is processus orbitalis, but posteriorly of it, here it is, it's processus sphenoidalis. This sphenoidal process connects with the corpus sphenoidalis and with the processus pterygoidus ossis sphenoidalis. That's why the name of this process is processus sphenoidalis. So, if we have such kind of cutted sagittally skull, so it's quite easy to find processus sphenoidalis after entering the pointer inside of the foramen sphenopalatine. So posteriorly to it, we shall find processus sphenoidalis. But how can we find processus sphenoidalis in situation of the whole, not cutted skull? So we ought to enter processus foramen sphenopalatinum from lateral side. From lateral side, we can find, from lateral side, we can find this place, quite small place, between maxilla and os sphenoidale, which called fossa pterygopalatina. This is fossa pterygopalatina. I shall write down it. Fossa pterygopalatina. pterigo-palatina. In parentheses, I have written down that it have 6 connections, exactly 2 canals, 2 fissures, and 2 foramines. This place fossa pterigo-palatina is crucially important, is of crucial importance for different vessels and nerves which pass through these 6 connections of it. And again, I'd like to demonstrate that it's written here. There are 6 connections of fossa pterigo-palatina. 2 of them are canals, 2 of them are fissures, and 2 of them are foramine. And one of these 2 foramine is foramen sphenopalatine. So here it is, foramen sphenopalatine. Foramen sphenopalatine this one. Foramen sphenopalatine, this one. It connects between each other nasal cavity and fossa pterigo-palatina from lateral side. So, foramen sphenopalatine is very important connection of fossa pterigo-palatina for nerves and vessels. And if we know where is it, foramen sphenopalatine, so posteriorly to it we can find the processus sphenoidalis. So the principle of finding of these processes are, first of all, to find foramen sphenopalatine. It's easy. And after this, to find the structure before, that means anteriorly of this foramen, and after, it means posteriorly of this foramen. They will be processus orbitalis and processus sphenoidalis. So, now we already know that os palatinum consists of 2 laminae, lamina horizontalis, lamina perpendicularis, and 3 processes: processus pyramidalis, processus sphenoidalis, and processus orbitalis. there are some another important details. But let's try to understand, first of all, how much walls have nasal cavity. And I'd like to demonstrate you that in the middle of nasal cavity there is a special middle located structure or middle wall. It's of light, how to say, what is color? Light yellow, maybe. I don't know how to say this color, but it's quite bright, yeah? I'd like to demonstrate it in our scheme. Here it is. What is it? It's letter V, it means vomer. V, vomer. Vomer. It's vomer. Small but very important. Small but very important os bone of the nasal cavity, which forms the middle wall of it, middle wall of nasal cavity. Just now, this bone, vomer, you can say that it doesn't connect to any structures, so it's necessary to demonstrate how it will be attached to another bones. And here it is, structure of red color. Red color, that means it's part of the sphenoidal bone, and it's designated here as rostrum ossis sphenoidalis. Rostrum ossis sphenoidalis. Here it is, sphenoidal bone. It's from cerebral surface. So here it is, Turkish saddle, sella turcica, and now I turn this bone by anterior surface, and we can find this medially located crest, which named as rostrum sphenoidale. Here it is, rostrum sphenoidale. Чуть ближе. Rostrum sphenoidale. Here it is. So, In our picture, we can demonstrate that vomer is connected with rostrum, and so they form the middle wall of nasal cavity. It's middle wall of nasal cavity. And vomer, in place of connection with the rostrum, have these two symmetrical parts which are named ala. Ala, that means wings. Ala. Ala dexter and ala sinistro. Through this ale, through these wings, rostrum and vomer are connected to each other. So now we have lateral wall of the lateral wall of the nasal cavity. What is it? It's number 2, perpendicular lamina. Inferior wall of the nasal cavity. What is it? It's horizontal lamina, medial wall of nasal cavity, which divides nasal cavity in two symmetrical parts, lefts and rights, left and right, and superior it's better to write down letter A this way, and superior wall, which is corpus ossis sphenoidalis. Corpus ossis sphenoidalis. I shall write down that this is corpus ossis sphenoidalis. Corpus ossis sphenoidalis. But there are again some structures, again some details. For example, we can find here that letter L have such small crest, which named CN, crista nasalis. So this is crista nasalis, CN, crista nasalis, CN, crista nasalis. And there are 3 special small structures on lateral wall of nasal cavity. Here they are. With letter A, B, C. A, B, C. What is this? I'd like to demonstrate to you on the middle section of nasal cavity that there are 3 special conchae. Concha nasalis superior, concha nasalis media, and concha nasalis inferior. Concha nasalis superior, medius, inferior. These two, concha nasalis superior and media, are parts of ethmoidal bone. Concha nasalis superior and media are parts of ethmoidal bone. That's why A is crista. Crista, conchalis, crista ethmoidalis, because from ethmoidal bone, ethmoidalis, superior, and B is crista ethmoidalis, media, and C, here it is, C is crista conchalis. C is crista conchalis. These three conchae we can find in the skull if we shall watch from the conchae, from the horns on the lateral walls. So here it is, concha nasalis media, and then concha nasalis inferior. So I hope this scheme can help you to recognize all the structures in the nasal cavity and oral cavity. Thank you for attention. You all are free except one group which have just now, after the lecture, the class of anatomy. So this group shall wait me in the lecture auditorium. Thank you.